congratulations on the film. I've had a chance to sit down and watch it, and it's an absolutely amazing film, so congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching it. It's still surreal that people can watch it, we were in, post-production on it for so long that I still kind of pinch myself, like, I've seen it, and I'm like, what, how did this happen?
So, going right back to the start, Tom, where did the idea for the film first come about for you?
Well, I started writing while I was in the master's degree at Afters in 2016, and I was being mentored by she's now CEO of Afters, Nell Greenwood, but she was a head of screenwriting when I was there, and she kind of said to me, write something that really matters to you and something that you're going to care about for years, because the honest truth is that you'll be working on this film for years and years. And that was a pretty exciting change to be set. Up until that point in my work, I hadn't necessarily been writing autobiographically. And at the time, both my parents and my mum had cancer, so my whole family was kind of crossing this threshold into another chapter. And it was really potent, and it was really profound to me at the time. So I thought, I'll write this movie about my family. And yeah, I had no idea where it was going to take me. This is the film that kind of came out of me. And it's still something that feels really real and potent to me, the emotion in the film.
Definitely. And that's really clear when you watch the film as well. Did you find it quite difficult to write from such an emotional place? Because I've found in the past as a screenwriter, there's stories I want to tell about things that have happened in my family, but whenever I sit down to write them, I can never get the words to flow. I can write other things, but I can never get that to flow. Was that something that you faced, or was it quite an easy task for you to be able to put that emotion into it?
No, it was definitely complicated. Yeah, I think I really hear what you're saying. I feel like I wish I could say it's gotten easier, but I think every story, particularly the more personal ones, they're a brand new ecosystem. They teach you what they are as they're coming out of you. So I found that there's like a beating heart in the center of this film for me that is so exposing of who I am as a person and of how I was feeling at that time. And since losing my mum, she passed away in 2018, I think it's even more present for me how personal it is. But it's interesting, like, as a screenwriter, getting to that balance of sort of craft and the technicality of screenwriting meeting such a deeply personal sort of story and point of view. I can't say I've cracked the code on that one. It's more just intuition, right? And trying to map it out and feel your way through it every time.
Yeah. And well, I think one of the things I've found with this film, that even though it has a fantasy element to it, the characters feel so real. You absolutely nailed dialogue and made it so natural that it felt like you were there in the room with them. Was that something that you were very aware of when you were writing the script? And also, were the characters in this based on people that you knew in such a way that you were able to sit there and think, how would that person deliver that line?
Yeah, I mean, I love dialogue. Like, ask anyone who has read my work, it's like most of the work I do in redrafting is like cutting dialogue out, because once I get it, once I have the voices and I have those sorts of characters on the page, I just love writing for them. With this one, I would say my siblings would kill me if I said they were based on, but they kind of are. They're also more facets of me, kind of split across the characters. But you could also argue that is being a sibling of family. Like, we are kind of all different sides of the same prism, and that's kind of also why I think the voice is so consistent in film and in my work. My siblings and I, once we are kind of in a room together, we just can kind of talk think that's really inspired my ear for dialogue, and like how I write dialogue is the rhythms of growing up in the family I grew up in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so knowing those characters so well, did that make it difficult then to cast the film?
It didn't like, I think because we were independent, we didn't have the sort of access and the resources to do a more traditional casting process. And I wrote the roles of the people in mind that are in the films. I was able to kind of take their counsel and talk to them about characters as I was developing them. And it was a bit of a dream, to be honest. Like, I'm so proud of the cast that we were able to get. I'm so proud of the work they all did. You know, I think they're all phenomenal artists in their own respect, and they read the script and they just sort of fully committed to my vision.
Yeah.
I've known my family, or met my family in the process. So it was also really nice to have that sort of those involvements. Like, you know, there was this moment where my actual brother and sister had a drink with the women playing the mums in the film, Camilla and Rhonda, and it was just really surreal because I think they all just kind of felt like family, like they knew each other.
Yeah.
Which is really special. It was a beautiful experience.
Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was the fantasy element of the film. How did you bring that to life? Because one of the things I found really interesting was reading the press release for the film. Quite often when you read a press release, they'll liken a film to another film, and then you watch it and you go, that's nothing like that. This time your film was likened to Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is my favourite Australian film of all time, and I definitely agree that it does feel, it has that feel to it. Tell us how you brought that fantasy element to life, and was Peter Weir's classic a film that you love as well?
I mean, yeah, but firstly, thank you. To even compare them to me is completely surreal, you know, like I grew up with that film, you know, and so I feel very undeserved. Thank you so much. I feel, you know, in terms, the Picnic Hanging Rock was a massive reference in terms of the sort of Australian Gothic and the energy of the bush, and I really wanted there to be, you know, a kind of magic to the greenhouse and the discovery of it. And I think, you know, tonally, I always knew that the film was a meditation on grief, and I wanted it to feel meditative and reflective, because the whole film is about reflection.
Yeah.
And so the magic, for me, the fantasy and the magic sort of comes out of such a deep emotion as grief, and it's, you know, the greenhouse and everything to do with it is sprung literally from Beth's grief. For me, that's kind of what I was kind of drilling into as we were developing it and shooting it, and you know, I guess it's just it gives me the ability to have a broader conversation with my audience about the intricacies of grief and letting go and moving on. Yeah, and I don't think the magic would have worked if it wasn't grounded in something human.
Yeah.
Because it so often can tip. I think with fantasy, like, it can so often tip into being something ludicrous. But my favorite genre pieces are always the ones where it's always tied to the protagonist's sort of emotional journey. And that's kind of what we set out to do.
Yeah, okay. So, the film itself, you mentioned before about how long the post-production took. How did the pandemic hold things up for you guys? Because I know that it came out in the middle of the pandemic, which must have meant that you were finishing it off during the pandemic.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. Like, we were in post-production for a few years, and then we got the green light at the beginning of 2020 that we were going to take it right through the pipeline and finish it. So we went into the first lockdown, and there was people all around the world and in different states of Australia working over Zoom. We did the whole thing over Zoom, like ADR, sound and music, the color grading, everything. So in one way it was a beautiful blessing, because there was, you know, the industry was devastated by COVID, and there were so many people without work all of a sudden, and we kind of were just chockers. But then I think what inevitably happened was this conversation about how we'd release it. Cinemas were closing all around the world. Like major festivals were being cancelled, and it was really disenfranchising for a moment there. I kind of thought, if Marvel and James Bond are struggling to hit screens, how does an independent queer film stand a chance?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, it's just a plane going overhead.
That's all right.
And because we were such a small film, we didn't really know what was going to happen, and there's a lot of people telling us to manage our expectations. And because I think, I'm really good at managing my expectations, but I'm also like a supreme optimist. So I was like really quietly confident we would find an audience. Which was awesome because we did.
Yeah, and talking of the festivals, the film has been so well received at festivals right around the world. How does that make you feel that this is an Australian story, but it's become a universal story that audiences are loving right around the world?
It's crazy. I'm still processing it all. Like, and it, like I said, like even the fact that you can watch it is amazing because we were working on it for 5 years. But the response internationally and to the festivals overseas has just been so galvanizing and beautiful, and more than I could ever have expected. It's won all these awards. Like it's kind of done more than a lot of people maybe thought it could, which I think is just a real testament to the voices in this country and the ambition of the filmmakers. Because we really did kind of get it all done ourselves, like, and it really was, David and Goliath a lot of the time there. But all of my heroes did that, so I kind of was just taking guidance and motivation from the filmmakers that I adore, who started in the independent sector and just fought to be seen. And they're everywhere.
Definitely. And now the film is getting a new life as well on Netflix. How does that make you feel that, I'm not sure what the current Netflix rate is, but how many households this film will now be going into in Australia and around the world? It surpasses what would have happened with a cinema release. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean that it's amazing. It's such a triumph to be at this point and to be able to put it on such a big platform and kind of let its journey sort of end there. And it's ending in some ways, and in other ways it's just starting, right? Like, yep. As you say, so many people are going to be able to watch it. And that was the sort of primary goal for us, was it was never about money. It was never about, those accolades. It was actually just about visibility and being able for somebody on the internet to hear about it and then find it and watch it. That's really what matters for us as, emerging independent filmmakers. You really, and because it is such a, it's a queer story. It's got, a bunch of queer characters in it. It's like, I just want to get that story out there. So the more people that can see it, the better.
Definitely. Now, Tom, to finish off, what would you like to say to people out there who are going to sit down and watch this film on Netflix on the 16th?
Look, I made it. I was very vulnerable when I made it. I continue to feel very vulnerable about it. It's really a part of my heart on the screen, and the most I can ever ask for is that somebody, meets it in that place and takes it as the story that I intended it to be seen as. It's gentle and quiet. It's a bit weird, and I really hope everyone enjoys it.